The Brics group of nations, at the end of its meeting in South Africa yesterday, has decided to invite 6 countries, namely Argentina, Egypt, Iran, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, to become new members of the Bloc. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced this yesterday as a debate over expanding the Brics bloc, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, topped the agenda at a 3-day summit in Johannesburg.
While all Brics members have publicly expressed support for growing the bloc, there were divisions among the leaders over how much and how quickly. Joining us this morning to emphasize, the importance of this and to explore this conversation even further is Global Affairs Analyst Catch Ononuju. He joins us now to understand what this is and what it means for Africa. Good morning and thank you for joining us, Mr. Ononuju.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's get into the conversation this morning. The BRICS Summit is held in Johannesburg, and I'm sure that you followed it. What are your thoughts on the new additions that have been made, and how exactly should Nigeria respond to this? How does it affect Africa as a continent?
Well, as you can see, the New World Order is an inevitable event. Nigeria should squarely be there. It's just that currently Nigeria does have internal crisis. It is going through state capture, but the New World Order is inevitable. We cannot be in a world where everyone else works and pays off and earns in order to pay off, but then one country doesn't. It just spends money, brings money, and the rest of us get to pay, and it doesn't pay. So now that we have grown up and we've matured to understand that standard called the dollar standard was built and sustained through violence. Now that we know we have mostly reached the capability to produce mutually assured destruction, violence will no more be an advantage. That's why the world is coming together to chart a new world order based on truthful markets, honest endeavors. You spend what you earn, not you spend what you print. That's what it is. We will get there. I have no doubt Nigeria is an inevitable member for the New World Order. But first, we have to become a nation. And you understand, Nigeria currently is not a nation. That's why we have this crisis. We have state capture protagonists currently holding Nigeria down. Nigeria needs to be free before it can be invited, like other nations are invited, to become member of the New World Order. So it is inevitable, it is going on. We will want to be there, we will be there, but for now we're not there because Nigeria is currently captured by state capture protagonists.
All right. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, the 6 nations that are meant to be joining, they're talking about it from next year, not even immediately. So, of course, we have, a couple of months for, things to play out the way that they will. But I want to talk about Saudi Arabia, before we come back to talk about African countries. Saudi Arabia has had a long relationship with the United States. Do you think that relationship is getting fractured? In the last couple of months, we've seen certain moves that they've made. Of course, well, let's not go into that, but we've seen certain moves that they've made. Do you think that Saudi Arabia joining BRICS, will continue to fracture its relationship with the United States as one? And do you also think that there is sincerity with these countries that are claiming they want to join BRICS? Is there a possibility that some of them might not be actually sincere about this?
Well, you cannot talk about sincerity. The idea of the BRICS is an idea. And that idea, you have to come in if you understand what the story is about. Saudi Arabia, it's important because Saudi Arabia was the country upon which the petrodollar standard was established. But then it wasn't just the petrodollar, again, that we're living upon. We're now living on the gondola. It was originally the petrodollar, then it became the gondola. When the dollar was probably built upon the petrol business and Saudi Arabia's sale of oil premised on the oil being priced in dollars. But now that the dollar standard is being protected by guns, it's all right for Saudi Arabia to walk away. And if you look at what actually prepared it for this, China was able to convince Saudi Arabia, come join the New World Order, where we will not ask you to kill your brother for you to become our friends. And they understood that. Yes, Sunni Saudi Arabia and Shia Iran. And once that fight was stopped, as you saw, they were involved in a proxy war in Yemen. And they stopped that war. And they now are going to join. And the Saudi currency, the riyal, will be used for international trade. As we have all seen in the Russian experience, Russian ruble was used for pricing Russian energy products, their gas and their oil. And we saw the value that came to the ruble. So if you're going to buy things in yuan, or you buy that in Saudi's riyals, I believe every country is developed enough right now to understand that the benefit that comes to it from recognizing its currency to have value, it's very, very great one. Secondly, if it is a valuable thing for other countries to print money and gain value for that money printed, as the United States have done, that also will occur to Saudi Arabia. But there is nothing wrong in being friendly with the United States and also being a member of the Brics. I don't think the US has the capacity to force members of the Brics nation, because in the Brics, you have up to 4 nuclear-powered nations in Brics currently and counting. So I don't think anybody have the capacity to tell them to stop. They will get in there. They will create a new world order. They will sell and sell in their own local currency. They will buy and buy in the currencies of whoever is selling to them at the agreed exchange mechanisms. You will no more be forced to tie yourself and your products to the dollar. And when you do not do that, you will then be subjected to either the Gaddafi treatment or even the Saddam treatment. I think we have come to the end of the old order, and we're trying to create a new order. So I believe what you have today are the explanations of the protocols. With time, people will understand those protocols, the terms and the conditions. And as we continue to play according to those laws, play according to those guidelines, the institutions installed to make that strong will now get better. So that's what you must understand is a standard everybody will join.
Right.
Okay.
I foresee everybody coming to join the new Brics standard. Nobody is removed from being part of it.
All right.
It's a strategy to sell your goods in your own currency. That's what that
I
it
mean,
is.
you've spoken about the work that Brics is trying to achieve, one of their goals being to, in some ways, strengthen or maybe de-dollarize the global economy. Now, the question I'd like to ask is, how soon do you project that this will happen? Because the merging of, the merging of all these economies have been in existence for years, and some experts will argue that they haven't really achieved much due to their diffuse nature, their diffuse political and social interests. So as much, they haven't been able to achieve as much as they should have. So these differences still abound. Yes, they have a common goal, but they have different political, social, and economic interests in some regard. How soon do you see Brics being able to topple this dollar?
I don't see Brics toppling the dollar. I see Brics living side by side the dollar. And so if you talk about toppling, it then lay it in confrontational terms. I don't think so. I believe the Brics new pricing standard will be able to live side by side the dollar standard for those who accept the dollar. The Brics is a system where goods will be bought in the currency of participating nations, and settlements will be arranged in the ways that shall be agreed to by the Brics conference. I think working on it, it's a good thing, but don't talk about being about for long time. It's not been about for a long time. It is a child of circumstance. The American miscalculation in Ukraine is the reasons why most nations now believe, why should we be with the American standard when, if they disagree with you, they will put sanctions on you? Why don't we go to a neutral standard where nobody's sanction can do nothing upon me? Take, for instance, the key telexes in the banks, which was being controlled by a particular family, and it's agreed to the Western standards. That didn't need to apply to China and Russia in trying to do trade, and they are still doing trade today. So whatever standard it is that China and Russia, China and Iran, Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and Saudi Arabia and Brazil can use for the past 2 years without going through the dollar standard, that is working. All it needs to do is to get better. You get better as you practice and as you sustain the implementation of those given ways. So there is no need talking about it's not been there. No, the fear, the courage has not been there. The threat of US bombs have been the reasons that have deterred most smaller nations from doing this. Now that those nations have the chance of running into a committee of nations premised on this new trading arrangement, I don't see a problem.
Well,
you will see gradual entry by different nations from across the world into this new standard.
Yeah, Mr.
I don't think it should be something of we're fighting the dollar. No, we're not fighting the dollar. We're creating a brand new standard, which will be an additional trading standard to the already established world trading order.
Yeah. I wonder if America will see it that way, though.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think the U.S. will, allow this to happen that easy. I'm sure that they would, go down fighting, even if the idea is not to go down, but they're going to interpret it as, China and Russia and maybe even North Korea trying to bring them down. But I also want to ask, you've mentioned New World Order, and a lot of times when people hear that, it might bring a little bit of fear because nobody knows exactly what that experience would be in the next, few decades. If we're talking about a new world order, there's been talk about a multipolar world, that is not led by just one country, but of course, different powers in different regions, being able to, of course, build and work together. Should those who have the fears of a new world order, who fear the likes of China and Russia because they've been described as dictatorial states and stuff like that, what would you say about those fears?
Well, those fears are fears calibrated through propaganda. China's dictatorial standards has seen the world's largest pull out of poor people. Over 800 million poor people have been removed from poverty into what you call the middle class in a very short time in China. So whatever standard it is that they are using to be able to move over 800 million of humanity's souls from poverty into the middle class, it's a good standard. Never mind the propaganda you hear from the West. How is the West better? Look at the history of the West in regards to the South African experience. The West, in May and You's lifetime, referred to Nelson Mandela as a terrorist. All these countries, United States, the United Kingdom, and the rest of Europe, referred to Mandela as a terrorist. Russia supported the South African struggle. So did Cuba, so did China. So who actually is the devil? What about those who participated in slave trade? What about those who colonized Africa and killed millions in the Congo? Have you thought about that? The people in Niger and the rest of the Francophone are fighting to liberate themselves from sustained colonial and neo-colonial tendencies of France. So you do not lose when you try something new. As far as we are concerned, we are talking about the devil and what we do not know.
Yeah, Mr. Ononuju.
Terrorism at all.
Yeah.
Let us go to the new place. Nothing can we lose from playing the new standards against the established West.
Time will tell. time will tell, and I'm sure that in a couple of months or maybe in just a few years, we'll maybe see these things come into reality. Mr. Onoju, I enjoy speaking with you always. Thank you very much for always making our time for us. And maybe I would say welcome to the new world order. Let's see how things turn out. Good to see you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, and welcome also to the new world order.
All right.